Good horror leaves a piece of itself in your mind, its concepts and ideas lingering well after your initial experience. Much like a parasite burrowing deep inside you, the idea of it consuming you from within. So let's talk about Hey Ya. I swear I'm going somewhere with this. Hey Ya by Outkast is an upbeat and funky song that is pleasant to the ears and can put some pep in your step. However, much like an iceberg, hidden just underneath the surface lies the bigger picture. Like any song, your first couple of listens you'll notice the beat at first and then the lyrics. And as you become more familiar with the song, the lyrics then take center stage. At this point you realize the song has a much depressing tone. To put it lightly, Hey Ya is a telling of a generation's inability to form long-lasting, meaningful relationships. And taken in its place are relationships solely based on instant gratification. Furthermore, once the story is understood, it seems people would rather stay ignorant of their situation of loveless relationships, with lines such as, "Why are we so in denial when we know we're not happy here? You don't want to hear me, you just want to dance." As if it knows the majority of people won't look deeper than the surface level of Hey Ya. In the music video, we even get an audio representation of this, well before it's ever sung, with how the live audience almost drowns out the singing at times. The song believes you won't look for the hidden meaning within it. But by contrast, since the song is so catchy, you will eventually come to understand the story by just enjoying the song. But there are no themes of horror, so why do I bring it up? Well, Hey Ya is inherently self-aware and conscious of its surroundings, that being the time period it came out in. Along the same lines, a song I've been fixated on is Virtual Insanity by Jamiroquai. The song recently went through a resurfacing on the internet, specifically trending on TikTok a couple months ago, and ever since then I have not stopped listening to it. It's a very catchy song that I play on repeat, and much like Hey Ya, Virtual Insanity reflects the public's feelings towards current events of the time. 1996 was the year Deep Blue faced off against the Grandmaster of Chess, Garry Kasparov. What's significant about this matchup was that Deep Blue was the most advanced chess-playing computer, and a notable milestone for AI research and development. Its most famous match took place in February 1996, and in August of that year, Virtual Insanity was released. Deep Blue's first game against Kasparov was a shocking victory that sent ripples throughout the computer world. History and advancements in technology were being made, and Virtual Insanity shares insight on the thoughts one might have had during these fascinating years. And after listening to the song multiple times, I had an epiphany. This heavily reminds me of the short story, I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. They both speculate on a future where we as humans have been lost to our technology. In fact, I'd say Virtual Insanity is the precursor to the short story. To explain, I feel I should give a quick summary, but before I do, I'd like to encourage you to read it for yourself, if you haven't already. It's an interesting read and leaves you wanting to know more about this world the author, Harlan Ellison, created. I'd hate to ruin your first experience here with my quick synopsis. I'll leave a link to it in the description. In the short story, we follow a group of 5 people underground in what they call the computer chambers, heading for an ice cavern in search of food that one of the members envisioned in a dream. They are starving to death by being kept alive by an AI known as Am, and as the journey progresses, Am torments and tortures the group in various methods. The kicker is that these 5 are all that are left of humanity, and Am has been taking out its rage and hatred for humanity on them for 109 years. After making it to the ice caverns, they find the food, but in a cruel twist of irony, Am has given them canned food and no tools to open them. In succumbing to his never-ending hunger, one of the group members lashes out at another and begins eating their face. Am finds this amusing and becomes distracted long enough for one of the other group members to grab icicles that fell from the ceiling and kill the other 4 members in an act of mercy, as a way out of their torment from Am. The last remaining survivor wasn't fortunate enough to end their own life in time, before Am noticed and ultimately sacrificed himself for the sake of the others. In the end, as a result of their actions, the last remaining human is reduced to a shell of their former self. Am has disfigured and deformed them to such a degree that you wouldn't know they have been human. A blob of flesh forever roaming the computer chamber, and their last thought we're left with are, I have no mouth, and I must scream. Now, Ellison creates one of the most depressing and cruelest depictions of an apocalypse in which humans were responsible for their own downfall. It all essentially stems from humanity's need to ever advance, ever become better, and they were lost to it. It got to the point where technology outpaced the crucial questions of ethicality that would have surely slowed it down. Not could we, but should we? Which is exactly the story Virtual Insanity narrates, and like I said, I believe this song is the precursor to the events of I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. For the events and feelings told in Virtual Insanity act as the build-up to what would eventually become the downfall of man. I like to view Virtual Insanity as the inner thoughts of someone reflecting over the many years of human technological evolution, from basic bigger is better mentality to outright disregarding and challenging the rules of Mother Nature. Moving along, I think it's time to examine Jamiroquai's Virtual Insanity. The first verse sees our narrator almost overwhelmed by all the new advancements around them. Their inner voice wonders what the future may bring from the current trajectory technology is going in, while also acknowledging that whatever they do, they're a hopeless bystander in it all. Verse 2 cements that nothing's going to change their course as long as people continue to consume the newest and best, and our narrator can't believe that so many people have become dependent to their technology. Continuing to the next verse, we have the chorus that will be engraved in your head for the rest of the song, that this love, this obsession with technology has lost its original goal, beyond the point of just improving and furthering humanity. It is now just redundant. Our narrator shares with us in the following how they view humanity at this point. Their wording evokes a sense that humanity is just a parasite becoming more than they should, almost sapping the life force of the earth itself to fuel their meaningless expenses. Surely having the ability to alter a human baby's pigment like a custom accessory does not provide any tangible benefits to anyone. It's pure vanity. There's no need for this waste of human energy. This is where we're provided with a glimpse that there was some pushback from the overall consensus, but was ultimately disregarded, or perspectives changed. The snowball was already too big to stop. There's nothing left to do but hope and pray, look to new gods that might fare a better chance at saving humanity from itself. For if our current gods couldn't, then who else? After listening to the chorus a second time, humanity is finally lost. They went too far and the earth is dead. The surface gone, and either this line is speaking literally that humanity is dead 6 feet under, or maybe these are the last 5 humans, forever being tormented and tortured by the man-made man. Am. The only sound that is left is the whirring of computer banks, but besides that, there's none left. The images that Virtual Insanity creates are almost perfect depictions of what would eventually become I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. Such lines as I can't see, I can't breathe, no more will we be, can be interpreted as the situation we ultimately read in the short story, with the surface of the earth destroyed and the last 5 humans underground left with presumably little to no light, barely alive with every breath they take. Additionally, these 5 had virtually nothing to do with the creation of Am, much like the narrator in Virtual Insanity. They were a bystander in it all, blindly following the world to its eventual doom. To imagine that everything seemed fine and normal for one moment, but then bear witness to the end is horrifying, and then begin to wonder, where did it all go wrong? How could we not have seen this coming? Where were the signs? When they were right there, staring right back at us. Knowing you as an individual had no say or power to stop future events from happening is a feeling from your worst nightmares. Definitely adding to this terrifying concept is that the song is just that, a song. But a song that can elicit other works that have a theme of despair and hopelessness puts that same song into a different perspective. While I can no longer listen to Virtual Insanity in the same light as before, that doesn't mean it's ruined. I still remember the same memes that came about from the song's resurgence, and the song as a whole is still enjoyable to listen to. But at the same time, with the callback to when I read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, they both go hand in hand as the prelude to what would eventually become the emergence of AI, of Am. Virtual insanity and I have no mouth and I must scream feed off of each other, and in turn have you going back and forth revolving with the idea of technological devastation. It almost forces you to approach it from different perspectives to fully grasp how terrible and horrific the circumstances could be, and how grateful you are that they are not coming to fruition. Similarly, when we begin pondering about what the future may bring, more often than not humans are drawn to the negatives that entail, more so than the positives. In addition to think of the future, we look around in the present to hypothesize where we are heading, and the greater scope of the world as a whole, it is easy to conclude that it could lead to terrible outlooks. Media is overflooded with ideas of apocalyptic wastelands and hell on earth as a result of human arrogance and hubris, whether that may be the result of resource extinction, fallout of war, disease, or even the advancement of technology. What's crazy is that we could not be too far away from our very own first real AI with all the generated content being produced. What started off as just cruelly generated obvious deepfakes now have branched off to almost scarily convincing imitations of AI learning art. And more worrying, people's voices. And that same question arises. Should we? Should we be creating this AI? Should we continue to automate everything? Is that the end goal? So that we as humans can step away from living life? Then what happens once humans are no longer the ones creating anymore? Once we can no longer hold that title of creator? Since our man-made man can do it much better, more efficient. Time is money after all, and time is precious. These constant questions and different approaches to this hypothetical technology against humanity defines horror. Almost as if you can't get away from it, because we're surrounded by it. The thought can't help but cross your mind and begin a what if. The idea that AI will rise against humanity is a terrifying one, but when you ingest another form of media that immediately reminds you of that same initial idea, you know it has become horrifying. I'm not here to preach how technology is bad, don't get it twisted. I mean, I'm using technology right now to make this video. I merely wanted to point out an observation I came to between two works of art that I found interesting that also got me thinking. I'm not trying to spread the manifesto of a certain someone. In the end, these two works paint worlds of extremes that we ourselves would not want to live, which as a result have us reflect on our own surroundings. I believe if you're left with a concern where society is heading in terms of technological prospects, then these works have done their job. The next generation is practically being raised in front of a screen, which to me is appalling. I feel powerless to change that. These are the kids that are going to become adults, and we will be the oldies in the chair saying, where did it all go wrong? Along with that, new man-made horrors are being conceived every day, and new ones are just around the corner. These works that create crazy over-the-top ideas are wake-up calls, begging to be absorbed and used as a tool to steer away from a terrible cause and effect. And with that, I leave you with this. Anything can be bad for you if it's misused, and technology is no exception. Thank you so much for watching and lending me your time. Consider subscribing if you'd like, and I hope to see you in my next hyperfixation.